Hello everyone, nubkeks here, welcome back to Nub Raids. I'm on the test server for Raid right now. I'm just back from holiday. I've also just recorded an overview video of the Altar of Souls, summoning up some soul stones, talking about how you're going to get this, etc, etc, etc. But for this one, I want to do a short, simple, straightforward video diving in to the wish list and talking about who you should wish list once the game goes live, right? By putting a champion on the wish list, we can choose 3 rares, 3 epics, 3 legendaries. It's going to double your chances when you're summoning in these soul stones to pull souls for those champions. It's kind of a small thing, right? It's kind of a small thing if you consider it. Like, let's say I pull an eternal soul stone, the best of the best. There's an 80% chance it's going to be an epic champion. And there's a lot of epics in this game, right? Let's say there's 200 of them, right? 1 in 200 chance to pull the epic champion you want. If we double it up with the wish list, it's, a 1 in 100 chance. It's still pretty low, but it's something that's worth considering. So let's talk about the champions you might want to put in. For example, right here on the test server, I put in the new champions, because that's what makes sense for the test server to do. But what if we're doing it on the live server? What am I going to do as soon as this flips over? Well, let's take a look. So, I think a few general tips for how to do this, and then specific champ recommendations as well. I think general tip number 1, you're going to want to choose champions targeting, I think, the new areas of the game, right? Hydra, I think, is extremely important. We go into Hydra, like Hydra starts dropping these mortal soul stones. I actually think this is probably the most important thing to do. I think it's nice to have the wish list to double up your chances of specific champions. That's good. But really, if you're able to get souls and awaken champions you're going to use in Hydra and start getting more of these, getting higher chests, pushing further with your clan, I think that's going to do you ultimately more good. Just getting more souls is going to do you more good in the long term than the wish list is going to do. So in a weird sort of way, using the wish list to get this is the best thing. Sort of like capitalism, right? Reinvest your profit into your champions to get more. So I think that's the number 1. I think likewise, something that's going to help you in the Iron Twins Fortress to get these coins with which you can buy more soul stones. That is also extremely, extremely good. So any champions that are going to help you in those 2 areas would be my priority number 1. And then, of course, if you're still progressing on Demon Lord, that's going to get you normal shards. It's going to get you skill tomes to power up your champions as well. That's also extremely high priority. So they are, for me, the main things. After that, Arena is definitely like a big step below those areas, but still worthwhile. Then probably Faction Wars Doom Tower, fairly equal as being very worthwhile. And then dungeon farming and campaign and all that is much, much, much lower down. I'm not caring about that too much. Definitely focusing on the newer areas of the game. Surprise, surprise, the developers have made the newest bit of content they've made the most important. And that's what I would be looking for here. So we're going to look for champions that are good for those. If they're good in multiple areas, even better. I think you also want to look, tip number 2, also look for champions that you want to get multiple souls of. That's also kind of worthwhile. A champion that you might power up multiple copies of, so you don't mind if you pull and get multiple copies of their soul. That's something to consider as well. Let's go through this one by one. So for rare champions, who would I be looking for? Can I include, I can't include my my faction, my vault in here, unfortunately, but I definitely be putting someone like my starter champion in, right? Kale. If I've got Kale, I've just started the game. Kale is a really good one. Your starter you're going to use everywhere. You're going to use them absolutely everywhere. They're going to be your main source of damage. Getting them awakened as quickly as possible is going to be very, very important to you. Next after that, the rare that I think everyone is going to put in, if they have her, is without question going to be Cold Heart. Cold Heart is your go-to. She is the best rare champion in the game. She's extremely relevant for speed farming dungeons, even into the late game, because she does big max HP hits, fully depletes the turn meter. She's just amazing for Fire Knight, for Spider, for basically everything. Cold Heart is insane. So this is one that everyone will eventually build at least 2 copies of, maybe more. I think I've got 3 Cold Hearts now, might build a 4th one at some point. This is a champion you're going to pull multiple souls for and be very happy about it. So she's going to go in there once you get her and probably stay in this system from then on. Then for your other rares, again, you might want to look for stuff that's going to be relevant in Clan Boss. So for me, Painkeeper goes into my Clan Boss team, so I would throw her in. If you are using Heiress for a Demitha type composition, I don't think I have an heiress here, but if you had heiress, she would be a good option if you're using that team. Apothecary is a really good option as well. Someone who's going to be speed boosting you and going to be a key component of a lot of dungeon compositions in the early game. War Maiden for that AoE decreased defense, very good option as well. And then another one I would definitely point towards is just generally very useful for an early game player is definitely Bellower. Bellower is just an AoE damage dealer, putting out AoE crowd control. He is kind of a staple as a good early void-based damage dealer in the early game. He turns into sort of a crowd controller and stun set later in the game. He's a really good option. Renegade, Reliquary Tender, pretty damn good options as well. So I'd be looking at those sorts of champions for rares. They'd be the ones I would really point to. And yeah, so for me, what am I going to do? Well, I don't care about my starter. I'm definitely putting in Coldheart. I use Renegade. I'm going to be putting in Renegade and not Kale. I'm not putting in Kale personally. For me, for the third slot is a bit more of a question mark. Actually, someone I'm going to put in that I haven't recommended yet, but I'm going to put in Paragon, believe it or not, because I think that Paragon does have a lot of potential, perhaps to solo this new dungeon. So it's probably a good idea to try get him awakened pretty early on to help that and to speed it up. Then probably Painkeeper is my next one to up some clan boss damage. That's not too important for me though. I'm already one keying all the clan boss stuff, so it's okay. The Demon Lord. For epics, for epic champions, who do we want to go in here? This is, I think, probably the most clear-cut choice for the most part, because there are some champs in here you're going to build multiple copies of, and we go back to that rule of thumb, which was champions who are really good for Hydra and really good for the new dungeon, all that sort of stuff. The number one champion, probably the best epic in the game, Geomancer. Really, there's no question there for me. Once you get Geo, he should be in here. You're going to build multiple Geos. I have 3 of them built up. So he's a champion you're going to want lots of Geomancer souls for. He's just insanely good for all of those bosses. I think he's going to be insane for the new dungeon. Insane for Hydra, so he is well worth building. And then after that, I would also recommend some of those max HP nukers. I'd be recommending Royal Guard would be my number 2. And then probably Husk would be my number 3 if you've got these champions. I think they are the best options. These are like the best damage dealers. Well, some of the very, very best damage dealers for Hydra. Certainly in the epic tier, they beat even most legendaries. We'll see if Awakening switches that up. But these champions are just insanely good. They're fairly obtainable as epic. So once you get them, slot them in here, try to get them awakened. You're going to be very happy. And definitely don't sell their souls. You're going to build multiple copies of these champions. You could easily build 3 of each of these. If you don't have them, there are other good options as well, though. I'm going to leave Geomancer slotted in because I think it's just wrong not to. I do think Ugo is a really good option as being a fantastic champion for Hydra in particular. She is well worth considering. When you start getting some of the later Doom Tower champions, obviously Dark Kale stands out as a really good champion who speed farms dungeons. So you could do that, but I'd be pushing him a little bit further back. I'm not rushing out to get him awakened or anything like that. Champions you're going to be using in Clan Boss are very worthwhile as well. I was looking for Demitha would stand out as a good one. I think she's in my vault right now. Demitha, no, there she is. Demitha, if she's going into your Clan Boss team, your Demon Lord team, very good. And bringing in block damage, I think she's going to be very good for Iron Twins Fortress as well. So that's well worth considering too. I would consider her. Seer for speed farming or Man Eater for, again, unkillable teams for Clan Boss and possibly Iron Twins. Very good options. You could definitely consider something like Madame Ceres too for Arena. Not so good in the top tier content that I'm talking about here. So Hydra and Iron Twins, I don't think she's as good there. Her cooldowns are fairly long, but she could be well worth considering. So for me, again, if I was to choose these, it's pretty straightforward for me. I'm going for the damage dealers first and foremost. I'm going for Geomancer. I'm going for Royal Guard. Where is he? And I am going for Husk, but I've clicked something else without paying attention. Ugo. Ugo is a good one. But yeah, again, these are champions I'm using in this top tier content in Hydra, and I'm going to build multiple copies of them, so let's go. For legendaries then, this is really quite broad. You can see I've got a lot of legendaries. You probably don't have this many legendaries. What you want to go for, I think for this, those champions that are really going to help you with Hydra specifically and Iron Twins Fortress specifically are the ones to go for, but it's really going to depend on what you have. I will say luckily that the guaranteed void legendaries, the ones that you get sort of those big milestone rewards for playing the game are very, very strong. So Arbiter is a really good option. Super good for Arena, actually really good for Hydra as well. She's great. Once you get Mithrala, I would definitely lock her in here too. Mithrala is god tier for Hydra now. She's god tier in Arena. I think she's going to be god tier for Iron Twins Fortress. So for me, Mithrala is the first one I lock in and pretty much leave locked in. Lydia, really, really strong option as well. Of course, you get her later on in the game, or Romantu is even further on, but they are worth considering as well. Ultimate Death Knight, I think, is great. I think he's fantastic champion. I'll have a guide on him as soon as I can, but for Arena, for Hydra, for Iron Twins, for all this stuff, I think he's exceptionally good. So he is very worthwhile. Yeah, again, for players that have been playing for a little while longer, actually, if you got Deliana is well worth throwing in there. Yeah, I think just don't stress it too much. Like, you probably know which legendary do I use everywhere. Who do I use all the time? Seal of the Drakes is a really good option too. That's who you should slot in. For me, who am I slotting in? Again, for me, no question, Mithrala is number 1 here for me. Krisk is probably number 2 because he's probably still the best champion for Hydra overall. And then number 3, that's where it gets a bit trickier. And I'm not 100% sure about this one. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to look more in to Iron Twins Fortress before I really decide. I probably will stick in Lydia as that really safe bet. Arbiter either is also a really safe bet as a champion that you use everywhere. So they're probably the 2 safest bets for what I'm going for. Ninja is also a good one. That's going quite far back with those guaranteed legendaries. And I do think block damage champions like Helicath or Roshkard are very good for this boss as well. So it's kind of tricky, but they're sort of the ones that I'm looking at. Again, if I was to lock it in right now, when this goes live today, which I am going to do, I'm going to put in Mithrala, Krisk, and I think Lydia. Click confirm. And for me, bam, there you go. This is what my stuff is going to look like on the live server. These are the champs I'm going to be pulling for at the start and hoping to get first. And yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. Guys, let me know, who are you going to wishlist? Do you have any completely different ideas? Any completely different solutions? I'd love to hear, but this is what I think. That's sort of the mindset that I'm going through, the thought process. You can, of course, change these at any time. I could be like, okay, I don't have a Krisk. Stick in Ultimate Death Knight. That's going to be good. And you're going to be happy. But yeah, I would really recommend, once you get Mithrala, that would be the ones I personally would definitely lock in. Mithrala, Geomancer, and Coldheart. Once I pull those champions, I'm pretty much locking them in. They are my number 1 picks for every single one of these. I am locking them in pretty much no matter what. I'll switch out the other ones, but those 3 champions here on the left-hand side, these are the ones that I would be putting in above literally everything else. No matter what, they are in, and they're staying in until they're probably 6-star awakened, to be complete. 5 to 6-star awakened, pretty much, to be honest. So there you go. Hope you found it helpful. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.